You either live by the gun or you die by the sword.
Welcome to The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. I'm Nicho.
And I'm Chris.
And we are back at the start of 2022. And as our seemingly annual tradition is, we are recording on New Year's Day.
Yes.
And yeah, it's been an interesting year. Did you have a good New Year's, Chris?
I did. I went to bed early.
Oh, nice. I did not. I decided to stay up, play Pokemon, watch Fire Force, and call my family.
A good evening.
And had some really bad bacon mac and cheese pizza that left me in the bathroom for the first hour and morning of New Year's. So
sadness.
Yeah. So it's been a good day for me. So, but anywho, 2022, we're excited. We've got a lot of stuff planned for you guys.
Yes.
And as we've kind of somewhat set up a tradition ourselves as well, we are doing a live action this time. We're probably going to be alternating in the future between live action and animated movies.
Yes. Just
something nice, easily accessible to everyone, and one of our favorite things to cover, and something we don't normally have to do a whole lot of research for because this is kind of one of our bases. So,
yes.
Yeah. So, and Chris, what are we covering today?
This time, we've got Alita, Battle Angel.
Hell yeah.
Specifically, the 2019 live action version, not the original series.
Not the animated show.
No, not the animated show.
No. And kicking off the new year, Chris, what are we drinking today?
You brought out, and I quote, Bud Light Seltzer's Cherry Cordial. Cordial? Cordial,
I guess. I don't know. I had one of these and it's disgusting.
All right, well, cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah. I picked the chocolate partly because of this show, or this movie.
Yeah.
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 There's a whole reason I picked it, and I didn't want to buy another thing of chocolatey booze.
That's fair.
So, Alita Battle Angel, as you mentioned, is a 2019 release. It's a cyberpunk action movie based on the 1990 manga series of the same name, written and drawn by Kishiro Yukito. As well as partly pulled from the 1993 OVA adaptation.
Yes.
So, it was written by James Cameron and Laeta Kalgridis.
I'm familiar with James Cameron.
And it was directed by Robert Rodriguez,
who I'm also very familiar with.
Same here. I think of these people, we're most familiar with his stuff.
Yeah.
It stars Rosa Salazar, Christoph Waltz, Jennifer Connelly, and Kian Johnson.
Yes.
And much like, we're going to go into a little bit of backstory before this one.
Yeah.
This one actually has a little bit of history compared to a lot of the other live actions and stuff we've covered.
That's true.
Because much like the manga had a rough start in getting traction as well, so did this movie, because James Cameron was originally actually introduced to Battle Angel Alita by Guillermo del Toro about 2000 or so.
Because he knew Cameron was a giant nerd.
Exactly. And by 2000, 20th Century Fox had registered the domain battleangelalita.com.
Did they do anything with it? No, but they had it.
Nope. Because at the time, Cameron was actually slated to direct it as well. And he had been wanting to do a movie about female empowerment since his daughter had just started to grow up and start to become of age.
Which I honestly think I can see for James Cameron, like, that working out really well. But as we all know, James Cameron has many a thing on his plate.
Oh, yeah. Because Alita was originally announced by Cameron back in 2003, but it was constantly delayed due to his work on 2009's Avatar.
Yeah.
Which I kind of forget how old Avatar actually is.
Yeah, and it's really crazy to think that even before the original Avatar came out, they were already like, well, he's working on Avatar 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
And we're still waiting on 2.
And there's planned 5 or something of those?
There's so many. I don't know.
I don't know, and I really don't care enough.
Me neither.
And it took Cameron 5 years to write the screenplay. And he had originally gone down what he was going to do, a Romeo and Juliet love story, which we talked about a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, after hearing that, this is when we had our planning day. I had this, I just thought in my head that, That's basically what everything James
Yes.
Cameron even has going for him is all Romeo and Juliet stories.
It's either Romeo and Juliet in space on alien planet or on a ship, or Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Or even if we go back to like Terminator. To be fair, I haven't seen like Piranha or like his super early movies.
Sure,
But
yeah.
Terminator, at its core, is pretty much a Romeo and Juliet story.
Yeah, but with robots.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But on top of that, he also wanted Alita not just to be a strong female character, but he wanted to be a symbol of the people in rebellion.
Which, yeah.
Yeah, well, one thing of note as well, Cameron was in touch with Kishiro constantly through this process, and when he led that idea to him, like, hey, this is what she's going to be, he's like, no, that's not what Alita is at all. She's not a leader. She's a Yojimbo. She's she's a hired body.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a vagabond, pretty much.
Yeah, and it is one of those interesting things for this one, because the source material is so strong already with this. Like, the original manga series was beautifully done, had been around long enough that it had a well-loved fan following by this point. And I can see where some of the play for James Cameron comes from, and some of it just kind of felt like he had too many things going on and didn't really have a full grasp on this.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, I don't think he really would have been the best director for this movie.
No. I mean, he has the drive, that's for sure. He's definitely earned his nerd token. Yeah. But for Alita, yeah.
Yeah, the more we look at it, Rodriguez really was the better choice.
Yes, agreed.
And after writing the script, it was actually placed aside until about 2015 when Rodriguez entered into talks, and basically he had just asked, he had grown up loving Cameron's work and wanting to see Cameron's Battle Angel Alita, and then when he then they ended up becoming friends, and Rodriguez asked him, hey, what are you doing with Alita? Cameron's like,
nothing.
I don't have anything on it. And so he's like, well, here, I'll give you the script, and if you can rewrite it down to a workable script, we'll go with it. And actually what happened was Cameron's original script was 186 pages.
Okay.
And he also had 600 pages of notes, and he realized it wasn't a shootable script, and that's part of the reason he kind of sat on it.
Yeah.
And for those unfamiliar, a page in a screenplay is roughly equal to about a minute of filming.
Yeah.
Give or take, cutting lines and action sequences. Action movies are generally about 70 pages because you got all the action between.
And you can just, say insert explosion.
Yeah, exactly. And to give perspective, if that had been released all 186 pages, that's a 3-hour movie right there.
Which, as we all know, James Cameron is a lengthy guy. Always pushing how long you can hold your bladder. But for Alita, that would have been too long.
Yes. Yeah. And so, I completely agree with that. But it's also interesting because Rodriguez didn't feel like he was creating a movie for himself. He was creating what his interpretation of Cameron's Alita would be. So he saw himself more as editing it rather than rewriting it. And he edited it down to a sellable 130-page version.
Yeah, which I'll come back to eventually.
Yes. And finally, it did receive the director Rodriguez. He was given the role in 2016, which is also when they began filming. Of which Rodriguez has an interesting way of going about stuff. He treated Alita very much so the same way he treated Sin City.
Yeah.
He wanted to keep it grounded in reality while still staying true to the origin by utilizing actual camera angles from the panels as the basis for the shots to give it that very anime manga feel.
Yes.
And in between this announcement of its filming, it's also important to note that Cameron and Rodriguez had constantly been in touch with Kishiro.
Yes.
I don't want to harp on the manga too much, one, because I don't know too much about it.
And I think that's how most people went into this movie.
Yeah, no, exactly. Most of us kind of, any of us in like the anime manga realm, we had seen covers of Battle Angel Alita.
Yeah, you've at least seen the art.
but I never really read it. And I think that same like how your library only had like 1 or 2 volumes.
Yeah, I had to
That's
hunt
how ours
this,
was too.
Yeah, I had to hunt this sucker down. And granted, like, I had time because for a long time, like, that's kind of how it was back in the days. You just hoped for the best.
Yeah.
And I got lucky that my library had this, but it was, I think most people have at least seen the art or maybe heard like a synopsis, maybe picked up like the 3rd book. And that was kind of it.
Yeah. Whereas when I first saw this, I knew it was based off a manga. Didn't know any more. In the DVD itself, which is where all my research pretty much came from.
Yes.
While there unfortunately is not a commentary by Rodriguez or Cameron, that would have been amazing.
Icing on the cake.
There are some solid interviews with Kishiro and just about the series in general too.
Yeah. There's a lot of good background information on like the world that he built.
Yeah. And it's also important to start looking at it a little bit too that Kishiro never thought his story would ever be adapted, especially in Japan.
Yes.
Because for those unfamiliar with Japanese live adaptations, as much as everyone says, oh, leave it to the Japanese, they are very much often lower budget and lower CGI quality than what we see in the US, especially in the CGI. There's this very lacking of polishing, but there's also this somewhat carefree form to them where they just kind of, it is what it is, and they stick as closely to the story as they can, or they're just fun for the hell of it.
Yeah, they very much remind me of like 90s OVAs where it's almost a retelling of this like original couple of episodes.
Yeah. But
in movie format.
Exactly. So we're working on a completely different scale than what Japan ever could have done, realistically could have done for Battle Angel Alita.
Yeah.
Also, of small note, before we get into the movie, it's interesting that as much as Cameron and Rodriguez were fans of Kishiro's work, Kishiro was a fan of Cameron's first 2 Terminator movies, as well as Rodriguez's Desperados, Machete, and Planet Terror.
Which, especially if you've like read the originals, you can see it.
Yeah.
Especially the Terminator one.
Oh yeah, and for those not familiar with Rodriguez, this is a guy who went from doing Spy Kids to the spin-off Machete about their uncle who, like, there's one part where he cuts someone's gut open and uses the intestines as like a bungee cord.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of director that we're going into with Battle Angel Alita.
But, and as weird as it sounds, because a lot of the art for the original Alita was... It was almost in an ink style. It's very dark, it's very heavy, but it's very fluid and beautiful and very, like, fine detail, while also maintaining a lot of, like, heavy inked pages.
Oh, yeah.
And so while his past works from Rodriguez seem like a little bit, like, not quite in line with that, they ended up actually translating super well because he already had this familiarity with over-the-top, like, fantasy in like almost an unrealistic, almost hilarious way.
Yeah.
And the only real difference is Alita takes all of that unrealisticness seriously, whereas his other ones all just kind of like had a joke to it about how crazy that was.
Except for like Sin City. Sin City, he treated that very seriously.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, into Battle Angel Alita.
Yes.
We open on the year 2563. And we're told it's 300 years after the fall as we see a futuristic floating top pooping out garbage into a city below as a man searches for robot parts.
I'm glad you also connected that the city is just pooping garbage.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, just floating.
It's just floating pooping garbage.
Yep. And honestly, the more I think about this introduction, for how the rest of the movie is, it is very weak.
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah. The other thing that makes it kind of weird, especially now looking back, and honestly, like, this movie's not that old, there were so many other dystopians that also played off of the whole, like, humans living in a garbage cesspool of the earth.
Yeah.
That this one, like, this opening scene did not make it stand out.
No.
Which is disappointing because, like, the rest of the movie has so many, like, iconic bits.
Well.
Iconic visuals, iconic parts that, like, when this opening starts, it could be Ready Player One. It could be a lot of things.
Well, and I know about a decade before, I think it came out in 2009, we had Astro Boy.
Yeah.
Which, very much similar to Battle Angel Alita, but it has Nicolas Cage's Tenma.
Yeah, and also, it's Astro Boy.
Yeah. But more so for me, where I think it's weakest is opening with text.
Yes.
Specifically that, because I would have been more fine with just, spinning top city thing.
Yeah, and it is also an interesting choice break from the original works.
Mm-hmm.
The original works are story heavy, but it's the old manga style of like heavy visual text.
Yeah.
Like it's not the interspersed where like, oh, we're gonna have a title over the picture of the city. No, you just would have had the picture of the city.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't fit.
Okay. And in this opening scene, he finds an alive robot in the wreckage and takes her home. There is one thing I do like about this. It's good establishment of the social order and disparity just from the get-go.
Yes.
It's not like the Hunger Games where we're told that, hey, there's some higher ups. You
get like halfway through the movie before you see how the other half lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in this one, we don't even see how the other half lives. We just have an assumption of how they live based off.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But we know that they're pooping out trash on everybody else, and that's all you need.
Exactly. And so from there, we cut to the cyborg waking up, and she begins to examine her new body and take her very first steps.
Yes. And this is where, for a lot of fans, I shouldn't say fans, people who watched this movie originally started bitching.
Oh, yeah.
I remember this bitching like it was yesterday. She looks stupid, was a lot of people's complaints.
With the eyes, and I'll actually get into that in a little bit too, because that is the first thing we do see is her eyes.
Yes.
They're very much larger than life and very anime.
She has big-ass eyes and buck teeth.
Yeah.
But they're not like comic buck teeth, they're like baby teeth.
Oh.
Like she has like little kids that only have the first two teeth really coming in. Her lip always never quite covers her top two teeth. And it's very infantile.
Okay. Well, and I guess that kind of makes sense a little bit too with how the story starts to progress.
Yes.
Because one, this first body she has is super ornate.
It is beautiful.
Oh yeah. Cameron mentions that the body was supposed to be like alabaster pottery. Combined with Swiss watchmaking, and it's a body that's crafted with love.
It is gorgeous.
Oh yeah, and we learn why it was crafted this way to begin with.
Yes, and honestly, and we'll get into it more later, but the rest of her proportions and features lean into that, and so especially since I had read the original before I watched the movie,
okay,
I was super into this, how she looks, especially at the beginning half of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But this, everyone bitched about it so hard when it came out.
Yeah, and I mean it's.
But it is funny because now when you go through and especially people who are cosplaying and still love this movie, her original look is what everyone goes with. Oh
yeah, I mean you get the people who tape their eyes open a little bit wider and change the shape of their eyes to make it look more anime-like.
Yeah,
and there is some interesting stuff in this very first opening part because one, we get her first step; she's getting used to her form. But it's also interesting of note that part of what delayed Alita was this use of CGI, as Cameron wanted Alita to be fully CGI, which he made possible through the work of Avatar.
Yes, and her specifically looks phenomenal from a CGI standpoint. There is no complaints even today.
This whole movie is like that, though.
Yes, and there's
for the most part.
Yeah, there's only a handful, and they're not even really scenes. It's just a handful of characters who, I know what they're pulling from, I get it, but they didn't balance out quite the same.
No.
She looks phenomenal. And and she looks that way in the sort of mindset where you watch it and you're like, this is gonna look good even after the technology looks bad.
Oh yeah. No, and I mean, especially with me going down some older CGI rabbit holes lately, it's easy to see, we're in an age much more now where we're able to recognize that some CGI won't age bad, or won't age well. Because, I actually saw a movie in theater for once. I went and saw The Kingsman, and there were a couple shots where it's that CGI, it's already not aging very well.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's fine, but, it's just...
And, that's how you push the boundary is by having stuff that doesn't look good. But it is nice to see stuff that looks really good.
Yes. And on top of that, Cameron mentioned that the work on Alita has also aided in making the Avatar sequels.
Yeah, because she was captured via motion along with her facial expressions too.
Yeah.
So, like, there was a lot of back and forth modeling that had to happen.
Oh, yeah. And it is of note that the effects were provided by Weta Digital, D&G, and Framestore, but Weta was primarily in charge of Alita's digital puppet, and they had a redesign to meet the complexities of what her role was.
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating to see Weta go from this nobody...
Yeah. To leaders.
To the leaders. And then they kind of, at the same time, with their work on Lord of the Rings, they start off as, like, the elites.
Yeah.
Like, they just kind of established it from the get-go.
And it is kind of crazy because I distinctly remember looking at Lord of the Rings being like, wow, this looks phenomenal. I mean, it still looks good, but seeing how far they've come is outstanding.
Oh, yeah. Legolas hopping up on the horse does not look as good as it used to.
I mean, it's Legolas. It still looks good, but it doesn't look as good.
No. And so the cyborg walks into the, obviously a doctor, the man who is scavenging, repairing a worker and being paid in fruits.
Tasty fruits.
Yes. I also like this setting of the movie because from the beginning, the architecture is very old world.
Yes.
While the tech feels a little alien at first and out of place compared to like how you see the plaster walls and everything. And it's just, there's this weird juxtaposition that we normally don't see a lot.
And I think the reason why it works in this movie and other movies it doesn't is because this style, this like harsh contrast between like almost Moroccan style, old architecture plastered with like open pipes and like loose cables and wiring, they never change.
No.
This is the style for the whole movie, not just this one spot.
No, and that's the interesting thing too, because that style for the most part even translates to the newer parts of the city.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's why it works, because a lot of movies use that as like a marker of like, oh, look, we're hiding in the secret base, in the secret country, in the secret desert somewhere. But when we go back to our home base, it's all nice, clean, polished, and Windexed.
Yeah.
This one, everybody gets to live in the garbage heap together.
Yep.
And I like it.
It is an interesting take that we normally don't see a whole lot of.
No, I like it, and I also think it really helps like solidify the CGI characters, because while the main character is by far the most CGI'd, almost everybody in this movie has something going on.
Yeah.
There's hardly a normal person standing around.
No, exactly. And from this, we get the doc checking in on the cyborg, and we learn that her brain is human, but everything else is lost.
Yep. She's just a brain floating in a machine.
Yeah. Now, I mean, that's a now standard hero with amnesia trope that we've seen over and over again, but
it's almost done in a refreshing way, though.
It is. And partly, here's why I think it's interesting. It's because it sets up a fatherly dynamic as a cyborg who is basically a clean slate.
Yes.
And the doc.
Yes.
And also, while, I mean, it is a trope that's used in RPGs, animes, and, like, horror, it's a fantastic way for, like, especially new fans to get accustomed to the world, as we're seeing it through her eyes as well. But this is also one of the reasons I have issues with the very beginning, because we're given information from the get-go instead of learning it as we go across it.
Yeah.
Because the fall and stuff's not explained for another, like, 30 minutes.
No, it's not. I think, okay, I have mixed love-hate relationship with the amnesia trope. Partially because I come from that old world manga. Yeah. That old school stuff where, like, it wasn't a trope yet. That's just what we did. That was how you wrote a story back in the day. And so, like, that brings back a nostalgia for me. And even though this movie came out in 2019, they did a good job of holding on to some of those nostalgia, like, pieces. Yeah. And this, the way they portrayed the amnesia here fit in. But it doesn't, there are parts that make it nostalgia for me that do not, writing-wise, work. No. Because she knows information she shouldn't, but she's dumb about stuff that like, she's dumb about.
Yeah.
Which, sometimes yes, sometimes no is the answer. And that's how it was written. That was the amnesia trope back in the day.
Well,
you didn't know how to you didn't know how a toaster worked, but you knew how to pilot the spaceship.
Well, there are some things that get more into that, and this is why they do a great job of, like, why her clean slate actually really works compared to a lot of them all of a sudden being able to do kung fu and stuff.
Yes. And so, like, hers works the best, but I understand why people were like, this is meh?
Well, yeah, we're tired of the trope at this point.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it's a decade too late kind of thing.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And one thing, I know you mentioned the eyes, but I do want to bring up that her eyes are really interesting because, going back to Weta a little bit, they mentioned that the geometry in one of her eyes has more than Gollum did in 2002.
And if you all remember, Gollum had some big-ass eyes back in the day.
But we're talking the entire Gollum model,
yes.
not just his eyes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there was whole specials about how they made Gollum and how they motion tracked him and all that. One eyeball.
Yeah.
Is all of that work.
And more.
And more.
And more. Well,
which it sounds silly, but it works because she's the only character we see who has these big ass eyes.
Yeah.
So she already looks kind of dumb, but like we'll get to it. We'll talk more about it. But also because there is so much depth and detail gone into these eyes, they have that weird like effect where they're not human, they're not robot, they're that creepy middle ground.
Yeah, it's the uncanny valley with
exactly.
Fuck you, Tyler.
Yes.
He smacked me over Christmas because of one of our early episodes where I couldn't remember what the uncanny valley was.
And she is not, her whole face isn't in the uncanny valley, which is good because otherwise this movie would be hard to watch.
Yeah.
But her eyes are. And I think that's part of the reason why I like them.
Yes. I actually don't have an issue with the eyes. I do like that it's not just big for big's sake. Yes. It's also so that way they can portray a wider range of emotion and depth to the emotion that we normally don't see in live actions. Yeah. Because... And I've been really looking at I've been looking at drawings and stuff lately. Not from Alita, but from a lot of other series. But anime eyes are so more expressive compared to our regular eyes.
Yes. Because, I mean, you make them bigger, you got more room to work with.
Yeah. And
they also, especially at the beginning half of this movie, when she has her beautiful porcelain, like, detailed body, her eyes match that detailed porcelain body in an almost doll-like way.
Yes.
Very, like, China doll sort of aesthetic.
Yeah, exactly. And so, from getting kind of introduced to roughly who she is, because she doesn't even have a name yet. No. She's still trying to, like, figure everything out. We do finally get to see the outside world.
We do. And it's everything I had hoped for.
Exactly. It's a weird, like we mentioned, it's a weird tacked on juxtaposition of like HVAC, electrical equipment that just feels like they took what was existing and just threw stuff on it. It's a lot of what you see in kind of like third world countries that we normally think about. And it kind of reminds me of a little bit of a more haphazard and less organized Center Pompidou.
Yes. And it is every steampunk's dream, the world in Alita, because there are elements that feel like some of the early Star Wars, where it's like, okay, we have some trash in the back, put it together, covered in sand. There, it's an alien planet. Yeah, it has some of that old feel to it, where it's like, okay, I recognize some of these pieces, and then you've just got hose running through all of it. Love it. I love it. It looks so good.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of, it reminds me a little bit of Eraserhead. Yeah. Yeah. That kind of like cyberpunk.
Almost recycled cyberpunk.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely sits at a different style than what we normally see. Because, well, that's a weird thing too. So we've talked about it a little bit in the Akira episode, where a lot of cyberpunk live actions took the route of Akira.
Yes.
At least in the West.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, in Japan, most of what we see, well, it's transitioned back to more of a Western standard, but the early days were like Burst City, Tetsuo the Iron Man, Electric Dragon, 900,000 volts, that kind of, like, just tacked on cosmetic. It's almost a cosmetic instead of, like, an integrated system, like what we would assume.
Exactly. And the other thing that makes Alita stand out in this, like, recycled cyberpunk aesthetic that we really don't get, especially in the Western live action stuff, is it's all realistically lived in.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like, why do we have a random crime city when no one can live in the crime city? No, it is well thought out, well rounded there. It makes logical sense.
Yeah.
And the people who live there make logical sense. And I think, like, from the get-go, we get all of that. We don't get told it explicitly, but there is no question in your mind of, like, well, what is this weird town based? Like, no. You know immediately where you are, not necessarily how, what, none of those questions are answered, but it is real.
Yeah. And on top of that, Alita matches her environment too, because her head is very much feels tacked on to this very intricate body.
And from the get-go, half the people in the background aren't just like, oh, my hand got cut off, so I replaced it with a very realistic human hand. No, like, one girl's got a pair of scissors on her arm. This one guy's got a hat that's too small on the back of his head for his giant robot body. Yep.
And I'll get into that in a little bit. It's because it's the original authors' viewpoint of cyborgs was way different than anything that was coming out in the 90s and before.
Yes. And she looks like she's clearly main character anime style thing. Like, you can pick her out. But she also doesn't look out of place.
No, exactly. And in this, there is one thing that is a little out of place, and I didn't find it as jarring, and I have some thoughts on it. But there were a couple articles I found, specifically Christoph Waltz's portrayal of Dyson Ito. Yeah. Cyber surgeon, repair of all kinds, mechanic, no repair too small. And I kind of want to just tackle it real quick before we get too into it. There was... Battle Angel Alita kind of sat in this weird niche, or not niche, this weird cradle of... We were kind of still in the wake of Ghost in the Shell, which I think that was the first movie we all went together to theaters for once. But specifically, their casting of Scarlett Johansson and a whole other stuff. And how
all that went. Yeah, we remember.
Yeah. Commentary for later. But one of the major changes that happened was that Dyson's character was changed from Daisuke Ito.
Yes.
Which might also be a nod to Miles Dyson from Terminator 2.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
But
maybe.
Also just Dyson, the
vacuum
engineer.
cleaner.
Yeah. There's a lot of things it could be, but...
Yes. I mean, it all fits, but I see where people were concerned.
Yeah, and he was the only character that was kind of whitewashed. There were some other ones that felt that, but like I was looking up some of the characters that they mentioned in the book, or like they mentioned in a couple of the articles I was reading, and like you pull up their character in the manga and they're a faceless character. Their face is completely covered, and it's like, in this weird mashup world, why can't someone have another name? But I do understand some of their complaints that, yes, they could have easily found a Japanese or Japanese-American actor to play the role, but for some reason that's not known to us, and someone who's unfamiliar with the source material, I saw no real difference, and it's such a multicultural hub that it doesn't really matter.
It is, and I think one of the points that I understand people's complaints, I do, but Alita I don't think was quite the place to make the amount of fuss that happened, because it is well established in the books, and then later on in the movie it's seen. I don't think it's discussed directly in the movie, but it is in the extra credits.
Yeah.
Alita from the get-go was meant to have New York City style, all of the world compressed into one. So there is an Asian center where, kind of like there's a Chinatown in New York City. There is an Indian center where there's a well-known African market that is mentioned in the book series. And granted, yes, all that could have been put in a little bit more delicately, but it's one of those things we don't know how it could have gone.
Yeah. Well, and in the movie, though, too, like, it's so integrated that you kind of forget that even the source material, Iron City's set in Kansas.
Well, okay. Yes and no. This is the part that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
So Iron City was originally set in Kansas.
Yeah.
But later on, the author came back and realized that for his floating city to work, it would have had to been located on the equator.
That was not the writer. That was Cameron.
Okay.
Cameron only thought Zalem would work on the equator, and at the same time, Rodriguez was leaning more towards Latin America, and they specifically chose Panama City for the location of the movie adaptation.
Okay, that makes sense. But at the same time, the location of Kansas in the book series, I think the best you get from it is there's a barn in Kansas.
Yeah.
And, like, that's it. It's very much Mad Max, where are we? I don't know, on Earth. Deal with it.
Yeah, well, I did a little bit of digging on some of this stuff just because I was curious.
Yeah.
And everything I can find, Zalem is set in Kansas.
It is, but also Kansas is beautifully one of those places where, like, it is nowhere. Kansas, as far as, like, film setting, as far as book settings, unless you're talking about a historical aspect of Kansas, which, like, there's not that many, it's a blank slate.
Yeah.
There's not, like, a lot of features to define it.
Which is why it's kind of a nice setting, because it allows everyone to come in and tack on their culture into that area.
Yes.
Whereas, like, I do love the aesthetics of the movie. There is a very specific aesthetic that's heavily throughout it, and it's the Latin American aesthetic.
Definitely. But it works.
It works, yeah, exactly.
It works.
There's just so much richness to the city that
And
you don't notice.
And we also have to remember that it's so far in the future, and also the Earth has gone through a complete supposed devastation.
Oh, yeah.
Like, theoretically, it's just the city, and then the pooping city.
Yeah, as far as we're aware.
So far in the movie.
And that's the one thing that I kind of wish they had done a little bit more, like, little side exposition here and there, but but it's one of those things that even the source material waited quite a ways in for there to be, like, outside the city exploration. Yeah.
Like, we were very focused on the characters in the books.
Yes. And so, back to the exploration of the city itself, Alita, because this is all outside of what she's even aware of, is given her name.
Yes.
And is taken around the block while as the assistant gives a kind of worried look.
Because she's a dumbass.
Yeah, and we do, and this is where we finally get, like, a quick explanation of the world. Big war. World sucked after. Anyone left came to Zalem, hence the merging of cultures.
Yep. And now we all live here in the trash pile together. Amen.
Yep. And we get a brief snip of Motorball as the doctor pulls her away from it.
Yes.
Which...
What do you... Are you okay, Charlie?
He's got the sneezes.
Aww.
Which I brought up this question to you. I don't understand why there's screens on the corner. I guess it's maybe like the digital billboards of the future, but
why not?
It's just a quick way to bring it in.
I don't know. It feels Blade Runner-y to me. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's whatever.
Yeah, but we also start to really get the integration of the city, where we have one of my favorite minor characters is the 3-armed guitarist, street performer.
Yes.
And this is where I wanted to talk. It's important to note that Kishiro stated, and I think this applies more so to the movie as we get deeper into it, but his depiction of cyborgs, like I said, was rather drastically different compared to other portrayals, such as like Cyborg 009 or Astro Boy. And it's something that Kishiro stated, and that we are cyborgs, but we have to think, how can we live as human beings?
Yes.
In which instead of the cyborgs being treated as like second-class citizens, they are an everyday part of life in the world, and they are just regular-ass people, pretty much.
And I think that's part of the charm of not just this movie, but the entire franchise of Battle Angel, is that none of the people, because they're cyborgs, are suddenly super people.
No.
Like, there are people who, because they're cyborgs, are better, and the movie touches on that later on, but there's not like... It's not like Astro Boy, we're like, the one cyborg here to save the day.
Yeah.
Because he can fly and the rest of us are not.
Or it's not like the adaptation of Metropolis down the line.
Like, everyone, if you have enough money, you can also be the superhero.
Mm-hmm.
Which, it is the most realistic, like, future thought of how this would go, I think.
Oh yeah. And, I mean, everything is so integrated into it. And I do want to bring this up, too. I started reading this book, Anime Architecture, on my holiday.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a line specifically, and it's been a while since I've actually brought a physical book into recording.
Yeah.
Because one, I was too lazy to actually type this out today.
Wow.
I know. How dare I be lazy? But it's from Oshi Mamuro, the director of Ghost in the Shell.
Mm-hmm.
He said that over the years, I've come to realize that the silent world behind the characters is where the director has to communicate his core vision. The drama is just the surface on the film. The backgrounds are the director's vision of reality. And that holds so much true, not just to the architecture of this movie, but to everyone.
All of it, yeah.
Because if we really cut down to it, all these side characters we're seeing, as much as they are individuals, they are background.
Oh, yeah.
They are part of the wash behind us that we subconsciously observe.
Yes, and people don't necessarily give the background portion of a movie a lot of time and thought until it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's all anyone can think about is like, oh, how flat the world was. Or
Yeah.
how the background characters are so, like, uninspired.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I've been going down a little bit of this rabbit hole as I've been starting to get more into, like, fictional architecture and really getting a better understanding of the background and design in general. And one of the series that I just started picking up on was Fire Force.
Oh, yeah.
Where that is another multicultural world that I'm 20 episodes in and I'm now picking up on to, like, oh, all these characters have European names. All their buildings are European architecture. We've only seen the one part of Chinatown or Asia Town for a 4-episode arc. And it's like, okay, this is more interesting to me now that I have another thing to focus on in the background. So,
yeah.
But, and Alita is probably the pinnacle of this, where everything is so well done.
It really is. And it's kind of interesting because, like, if you ask people to pick a live action that has the best world building, I don't think anyone's going to remember Alita. But it's weird because, like, I've watched a lot of live action.
Yeah.
And I would argue it's the best.
Well, and
as far as background world building.
And that's the thing that's so great about the background world building. Not so much the actual storytelling of the world building in this movie.
We'll get to that part.
But it's almost better that it is a seamless background. Yes. And it takes us being nerds and architecture people to focus in and hone on like, oh, there's HVAC all over the place.
Yes.
Like, even though clearly everyone will notice that, but we see it in a different light kind of way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so, back to the story. The doctor is out on business as Alita shares her burrito or wrap of some kind.
No, she got a thing.
With a dog, which the movie spends so much time building as well as Alita. But we also show, this is a very telling because it's also starting to show that she's curious, but she's also compassionate from the get-go.
Yes. She's not a heartless robot.
No. She gives the dog the burrito, then sets the burrito on the ground, and picks up a flyer.
Yeah. Again, the amnesia in this one is a little weird because she does know some things. And then germ theory apparently is lost to her. Or like just how nasty putting your burrito on the ground is.
Yeah, it's the future.
It's not that far in the future.
We don't even... Well, I mean, the only thing she really has to worry about is her brain.
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you get a brain disease by eating floor burrito?
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
I know you can get it from eating other brains.
It's probably on the ground.
Yeah. But the poster that she picks up is a wanted poster.
Yes.
A bounty poster, as some type of machinery starts walking towards her, and she gets pulled away by some dude, but she goes back to save the dog. There are a couple things I do like in this portion, because it's nice to see that, first, we haven't really seen any danger in this world.
Yes.
This is really our first sense of danger, but it's also the beginning of, first we see physically that her eyes are different, and that's why I like what they went with her eyes, because they're already showing that, hey, she's different from everyone else around her.
Yep.
But she immediately gets ready to fight in the face of something dangerous. And we get the very early inklings of like, hey, there's something. She's
built different.
It enforces how alien she is specifically to the year 2563.
Yes.
Yeah, which again we've hit on that a couple times instead of we could have just gotten rid of the entire text intro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yep. And from this, there's a brief exchange between Hugo and Dyson. Well, also. We find out the man's name is Hugo, or the boy's name is Hugo. He also realizes Alita is full cyborg, pretty much.
Yeah, which apparently is somewhat different.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of full cyborg, but that's not uncommon.
No. And Dyson and Hugo seem to know each other, but Dyson seems to have some trust of the young man, but he's very cautious with him around Alita.
Yes.
A very protective father.
Yes. Adorable.
Yep. And from here, we get an even furthering of how violent the city really is. Because at night, there is a woman who is walking home alone and is killed amidst the neon lights.
Yep.
I really like the shot, even though it doesn't add a whole lot to the movie itself. I know it's what it's supposed to do, but it doesn't really add to it. But there's a lot of Midgar from Final Fantasy VII vibes.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard, especially since... Final Fantasy VII came out 7 years after the first Alita, and so, there's just... Cyberpunk starts to have this very much overlapping feel to them that we can always pull from, because after the woman died, Alita wakes up and sees the dog coming in with a bloody arm. This is another part where I don't really like the storytelling, because... We're starting to learn the world through the protagonist's eyes, but there's this weird editing lens that we're starting to see through where we see the woman killed. We hear her scream, but it doesn't necessarily tie in that Alita heard and that's why she wakes up. I know it's supposed to be hinted at, but it's
not strong enough.
Yeah, it's supposed to try and mislead us, and it's just done very poorly.
It is, and in the original source material, this is the part where, pulling from, we would have started having inklings that, this pure father figure that she has does have a darker side. Whether or not his intentions are bad, we don't know. But, the way the world works, even though we're all trying our best, is still dark and grim. We're still snatching body parts off of dead people on the streets. Yeah.
It's building the danger around her, which she's not specifically experiencing.
No, and I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we could have left out the whole doctor stealing body parts bit. It's weak.
Yeah, and this unfortunately continues through a good chunk of the movie, which I understand you have to get your audience caught up on stuff, but
it could have been done a different way.
Exactly. And so on the way out, Alita runs into the next morning. We've cut past that.
Yep.
She runs into a woman who's examining her body, who then goes to talk to Ito. Which there's also some little visuals here too. The woman she runs into, we get a little recognition that she looks mainly human, but she's got a dot on her forehead.
She does. She
is very much different than everyone else around her. She also carries herself differently, and there's right from the get-go, we have a different level of I don't want to say class, but there's
class.
Yeah.
But in that weird distinction between middle class and business class on a plane.
Exactly. There's a curtain.
It's a very thin one, but it's there.
It's so stupid. And from this, we get a cut to them walking down, or Ito and the woman walking down some marketplace. We learned that Alita's body was actually made for their daughter. It doesn't. This starts all the exposition that's the first half of this movie is so much exposition,
it's a lot of exposition,
and getting everyone caught up that they could have done this quite a bit differently.
They could have, but I'm glad they did it at all.
Yeah,
because we have been judging this so far like a standard movie, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
But from a anime live action standpoint, we don't really normally get this.
Yeah, there's...
we either get a block text at the beginning being like, enter the world, blah, 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 or you just get thrown in and hope you already knew the characters.
Or you get build up and then they throw some stuff that they're not telling the protagonist, like in Bleach, because now Bleach is coming back.
Bleach.
When the Fisher King is killed by Ichigo's quote-unquote dad.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's normally stuff like that. So while, yes,
Mhm.
there is a shit ton of exposition, I'd rather it have been a shit ton of exposition than like, all right, hope you studied before you came to the movie.
Well, so here's my thing with this, is because we're told this, but we also learn it again later down the line and it's explained to Alita. That's my biggest issue, is like we start going through some of this stuff and it gets re-explained 2 or 3 times later on in the movie.
Yeah, I see what you mean there.
Yeah, there's this weird disconnect where it's trying to stay as close as it can to the manga, but it doesn't match. Well, and also on top of that, if we really want to talk about source material, the wife is actually she's only in the OVA. She's not even in the original source material.
Yeah, like there was a style choice that they were trying to go with from the original, but then they did their own stuff.
Yeah, and it just is.
I mean, it works, but not well.
Yeah, we're being also rather nitpicky about this too.
We are.
Yeah, but again, it does add to the overall dissatisfaction with live action adaptations.
Yes, it's, if nothing else, something to improve on for next time.
Yes, because from here we're exploring the neighborhood as Alita finds kids playing motorball as well as Hugo.
Yeah, and okay, I understand the need for motorball. It is a big part of the story. I don't give 2 shits about motorball.
No, I don't either. And so...
which is disappointing because, like a lot of, like, future fantasy full-built worlds, the sport is fully thought out and has real written out rules. Like, you can go through and find what type of penalties, what the response is. Like, it is a full game. Yeah. Great, I don't care.
Well,
I don't.
And so here's the thing with it too. One, it's kind of shoved in our face. But also it's the way it's introduced, because we get little bits about it here and there. But for me to even understand what was going on in Motorball or any of the rules, it's in the special features. Yeah. And unless you're going to watch that, then we don't know what's going on, especially later on in the movie when they could have had a quick 5-minute or 3-minute exposition piece of explaining the rules. But it's also the way it's integrated too. So yes, we're starting to see it through Alita's eyes, but we've already broken that establishment.
Yeah, we're already onto third person.
It's not like how in Final Fantasy X, and I'm going to reference these a lot because I've been playing them.
They're in the same genre.
Yeah, well, Final Fantasy X, we're immediately introduced to Blitzball. Yes. And that's heavily integrated into the story. Motorball doesn't feel that way. It just feels like a side quest that
ends up being a main quest.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think for me, my main problem with Motorball was that it very much was meant to be like the street sport that kids play, hoping to someday be the pro. Yeah. But for reasons we don't really ever get told, the leap between the kids playing it and then what we see with the pro is too big for me. It's like, I can understand the arena being giant and amazing, and in the world I understand the leap for cyborgism. However, the leap between a kid dreaming to one day play Motorball, which when you boil this movie down far enough, that's what this is. Yeah. Is a kid who wants to play Motorball professionally. Well, which is a weird thing because she's Battle Angel.
Yeah, and we also don't really get explained that there's multiple games of Motorball. No. There's not just the one that we see played. There's multiple games.
The way the movie goes about it, you just would have to know that. Yeah.
And part of the reason Final Fantasy X is on my mind is because I tried doing a little bit of digging to see if the Blitzball was inspired by Motorball, because they have a very similar ball. That was the big thing that I went into with that. So
yeah, I mean, but also like how you can only recreate sports so many times.
Yeah, the ball has so many shapes.
The ball does only have so many shapes.
So many shapes with additional bumps. Yep. And so from this we cut back to Doc and we learn her name is Sheeran.
Yeah, I don't care.
And she wants him to go back to Zalem.
Yeah, fine. Yeah. Again, I understand why she's there, but I would have preferred they went with the original style of her just not existing. Yeah. Like she existed in the original, but like She wasn't seen. She was just like the distant ex figure who never comes to visit on Christmas.
Yeah.
Sort of mom. And that was fine, because we don't need her.
No, she really serves no purpose other than exposition in this entire movie.
Yeah, she expositions, and then eventually we use her to jump cut to a different scene.
Yeah, pretty much, because from here we cut back to Motorball, and after being tossed around, Alita turns out to be a bit of a natural at the sport.
Yeah, which, again, I have mixed feelings about Motorball. We'll see.
Yeah. And so after she kicks butt, Hugo then gives her a ride home and shows her some new things about the world, like chocolate, which is her new favorite food, hence the shitty chocolate seltzer that I just needed to get rid of. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's not the worst I've had this week, but it's getting there.
It's disgusting. I think chocolate is the most vile food
I was
on
going
the
to say,
world.
you really were going in for torture for yourself. You don't like chocolate.
Yeah. I even tried one of the chocolate oranges with toffee. It started off very citrusy, and then once it gets into the chocolate, I was disappointed, as always.
I should have just taken just the orange part.
There wasn't any orange.
I'm sorry.
It was one of those chocolate oranges.
I know. They have oranges. They're called oranges.
Thank you, Chris. I'm aware.
Just checking, because Alita's not.
Oh yeah, she is complete. Yeah, because that's the first thing she eats is an orange,
and she eats it rind first, like a barbarian.
I mean,
okay,
I guess
you cannot tell me that this girl can comprehend Motorball quickly, but also doesn't know how to eat an orange.
She's not built for oranges. Maybe oranges are foreign to her.
Okay. If this had been, like, hard set in the original Kansas, sure, maybe. But it's not.
Yeah.
it's not.
The future. And so, from this, we also learn about the Hunter Warriors. And we learn that guns are banished.
Which I like. I like all of...
Mm-hmm.
I like this progression so much more than the sport progression.
Well,
because this has an element for me of like, okay, I can logically make the jumps to how we got to a civilization full of cyborgs with no guns.
Yeah,
but we also have to hunt people down.
Yeah, you more so want a bounty hunter movie than bounty hunter movie with sports.
Yeah.
Well, and so at this part too, I do like that we are getting progressions too here. One, we could have cut with Ito and Sheeran, but Hugo and Ito are both very much similar characters where they're nurturing and protective, but with different goals and regards in mind.
I mean, yeah, but...
Hugo makes a sex joke later on.
Yes, he does. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, like, I think because of that, they both feel like much more rounded people than some of the anime reimaginations or boyfriend reimaginations that we've seen in live actions.
Yeah,
they do tend to be a little one-sided.
Yeah, they're more so, and I regard this more in the veins of anime adaptations, even though it's not Mutant Girl Squad.
Oh yes,
where
it isn't. It lives adjacent to it.
Yeah, where like the parents are like, "Oh, we're your parents, and your dad's got weird nipples."
Yes, and then like you never see them again.
Well, they get killed.
Yeah,
right
because
away.
they're dead.
Yeah.
And even the parents, because let's be real, anime loves murdering parents.
Mm-hmm.
Like even the parents who like make it long enough to have a personality and then die, a lot of the time still are a little flat.
Yeah.
This is one of the few ones where like he feels like a proper dad, minus the whole body snatching part. And then, like, he feels like a proper, like, potential boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like, he at least feels like a good person. Like, it doesn't feel like this whole world is full of shitty people.
Yeah, well...
Which I like.
We know very little about Hugo, because after this, they go to this entrance to a tube or something.
Yeah.
And he explains his goal, that it's to get up to Zalem, that the tubes are used to send supplies to Zalem, but not people. They only get the garbage, so Alita must be from Zalem. A bunch of exposition.
Blah, 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 blah. Don't care. But, yeah.
Yeah. And from here, we cut to the night where Alita decides to follow Doc as he stalks a woman in red. Dun, dun, dun.
And this is the part that feels the most anime to me.
Yeah. Well...
Like hard turn into the anime world.
Well, and so here's some things to it. And I'll get into it, because this is the part where I like how they address the world building.
Oh, I do too.
Because, surprise, Doc is a hunter warrior. That's why he was bleeding.
Yeah.
He is actually a good guy. Which there's a part in this because we find out that he's actually being hunted. The woman in red was a decoy. The Scythe dude reminds me of like the Alchemist episode in Supernatural, where he just feels like this decaying, mismatched being.
Yes.
So we've seen the good side of cybernetics.
And there is a dark side.
Yes, and now we're starting to see that, hey, some people break and they don't have the means to actually fix.
Yes.
And so they have to rely on...
And there's limitations to this future robot world.
Yep. Because the Duck tells Alita to run, but she instead goes and destroys Patchwork, which that's the dude's name.
Yes. And don't get me wrong, I love the fight sequences in this movie. All of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are beautifully shot. I think the choreography is really nicely done. I think the CGI feels heavy and solid.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel floaty. But Alita's a little OP.
Good reason, too. Because, one, Mantis Chick is dope. She is having a hard time against her, a little bit.
Yes.
But this is a great way just to show the extremes of body modification as well, because we've now seen, well, and as I mentioned before, there's only arms and legs we've seen, but now we've seen Zapan.
Yes.
The hunter warrior that Hugo, so, that's Zapan with the Damascus blade. But what we've seen up until now has been daily uses as well.
It's all been very functional.
Yeah, everyone, and now we're starting to see everyone with weapons.
Yes, and like specific modifications to their job.
Mm-hmm.
Like up until now, we've seen like, oh, you got extra third arm, so you can play guitar. That's cute.
Yeah,
but you can still do normal things. This lady cannot live a normal life.
No,
she has blade things.
No, and we also realize that there's layers to Iron City that we haven't seen yet, and these people are kind of living off the scraps.
Yes,
these are the even lower than like Ito and everyone else, kind of just eking it out in existence.
This is Sprint Airline,
but. Spirit
Airline.
Yeah,
that's it.
That airline sucks.
Yes.
But in this scene, this is one of the few times that I actually really appreciate the flashbacks.
Oh, yes, I do too. Because
we got the inkling of this when she tried to take on the Centurion.
Yes.
Because we learn that faced with life and death situations, that's when Alita's battle training and like her very Manchurian Candidate style, Jason Bourne training in background starts to relive, and that's how we get more information about her, because that's what's triggering her memories. And if she had tried taking on the Centurion, we probably would have seen some type of flashback, but we get that little starting inkling of her getting into combat.
Yes, and it also just reinforces like between flight and fight, she's picking fight every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah. She's a battle angel.
Yeah, surprise.
Yeah. And so I do like this because also, what's his name? The giant hulky dude jumps further down into the city's underbelly. Which I like. Yeah.
Layers.
Because she breaks onions. Iron City is like an onion.
It really is.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, she breaks his arm too. Like and this is what we see too, is not only is she able to take on a cyborg that is her size with deadlier weapons, she's taking on something that is obviously supposed to be much more powerful than she is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so.
And we learn about why a little bit later. Because Ito reveals that his job, or that he's a hunter warrior.
Yeah.
Because he had to do it, otherwise the clinic would have closed down forever ago.
Yeah, I don't care.
Iron City is lawless, and this is how they keep the order, is hunter warriors, bounty services. Which
I'm okay with, but the world that was built is clearly not lawless.
Yeah.
Like, it's clearly not.
Yeah.
So don't call it that.
No.
Just say, like, by the way, we have a lot of people who just murder people for money.
It's very much, it reminds me of much like the Wild Wild, our romanticization of the Wild Wild West.
It's very Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
And so from this, we go back home where we're told the story of human Alita and cyborg Alita's lineage, which I would have been okay. See, this is where the storytelling of this breaks down, because we already know about this pretty much from Ito and Shiren's conversation, where if they had they only had that part to bring her into and give her a relationship to robot Alita and Ito.
Yes.
And that's her whole purpose.
That's her entire role.
Exactly. And so if they had cut that out, we could have just had this backstory, and this is where we would have learned where the body came from.
Which would have been fine.
Yeah, exactly. It would have been more exposition-y again.
And honestly, like, it would have weighed a little bit better for the father figure. Because him explaining it to the ex lessens the impact a little bit.
Yeah.
I know it's meant to be like, oh, look, he's at feuds with his ex over his love for his daughter, but, like, he understands that this isn't her.
And this is where they could have brought Sheeran in, is because he mentions that Alita's death led to their divorce or separation, and that the doctor's original career paths were.
Yes.
Like, this is where they could have brought in Sheeran and then surprised us with her, oh, shit, this is the chick mentioned earlier.
Yeah. But, oh well.
Oh well. I mean, it is what it is. We can only judge it for how it's done currently. But this is also very revealing in the doctor's reasonings for reviving Alita and his fatherly approach, but this is also the beginning of their rift.
Yes.
Because
she's not his daughter.
She's not his daughter, but we're also introduced to how mysterious she really is, and that her nature doesn't align with what the doctor envisions.
No. And also, like, this is an interesting, like, story of nature versus nurture. And in this story, nature wins.
Yeah.
Like, you are your nature.
Yeah. And from this moment, we do cut to a man overlooking the city as Sheeran enters.
Yeah.
This is where she could have been introduced.
Yes,
well.
I agree.
And also, we get a drastic shift in the architecture, because everything in this room looks new. Everything feels like it's in place. There's no exposed MEP equipment besides lighting. But we're definitely working with a more brutalist, angular architecture.
It is so Star Trek, it hurts.
I don't even think it's Star Trek, because
if Star Trek had the budget.
No, I don't. So I get a little bit of that angular-wise, but material-wise, it's so concrete. It's very much, it's bunker-like.
It is very bunkery.
Yeah.
It also, it very delicately sidesteps the word sterile. But it touches all of the things around it.
What it fits with is, like, Soviet brutalism.
Yes, it does.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and
totalitarian architecture.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
It really is. Not a like, spare change drawer to be found in this place. Everything has a spot, damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really well done, though.
Yeah, it is very nice.
Yeah. Again, the background is very important to a lot of this. But from this, we learned that the bounty hunters were after the doctor, and they were sent by Sheeran. And that night, Alita begins practicing, very much so, like, it reminds me a little bit of...
The Karate Kid?
No, it makes me think of... what was that? The Bollywood movie we did where the guy has to drink water, but less comedic.
Oh, that movie was so good. Yeah. It feels like that, where, like, at night she is training secretly.
Yeah. She's remembered something.
Yeah.
But it also at the same time feels like she doesn't really know what she's doing. And it's like how as a kid, like, you pretend karate.
Yes, it is. It feels very like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is nicely showing off, like, how fast she is.
Yeah.
And how, like, yeah, she's still not quite there without her, like, feeling like she's failing. But it also doesn't quite feel natural yet.
No, I get what they were going for, but it doesn't translate as well.
No, and unfortunately, this is probably the only part I have complaint. It's a little bit CGI's fault.
Yeah.
Partially because the only way to show her being super fast by herself without any normal people to compare her to just makes her look like fast CGI.
Yeah, it's kind of like, we've talked a little bit about it with, I think it was in our Meg episode, where like, we forget how big sharks are.
Yes, very much
because we don't have anything to scale them to in the deep ocean. That,
and like, I don't stand next to sharks very regularly.
No.
Yeah. This runs into the same problem, but it's such a short scene.
Yeah.
That, like, it's not breaking, and also the rest of the time that she fights is against either normal-esque or, like, pretty good fighters.
Yeah.
And she's still fast, so, like, you forget pretty quickly
that
the scene was a little...
Because we only had that brief fight with the mantis chick.
Yeah, and it was real brief.
Yeah.
And it was very back alley, like, all right, we slapped hands. Who won?
Yeah.
It had that feel. Like, we clearly could... We know.
I mean, she bashed her head in. Yes. I mean, there's a clear winner there.
But if there's a clear winner, is different than, like, open ring, like, well lit. Clearly her skill is better. The first fight almost felt like she didn't know what she was doing.
Yeah.
And this is leading into that as well.
Yeah, she's childlike. She's practicing kung fu. She doesn't really know.
Yeah, she just happened to beat up that one lady.
Yep. And so from here, we cut to the lab where the one who escaped, his name is Garishka.
Sure.
And he is being rebuilt by Shirin. It is further, again, this whole fucking portion of this scene is just exposition, because it's further revealed that Alita's power doesn't come from the body, but the mind, and that her fighting style is the forgotten Panzerkunst fighting technique.
Which, I mean, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's there, but it just...
It's fine, but also, like, I think when I first watched this movie, I didn't care. Mm-hmm. But now knowing that from the get-go they had envisioned multiples of these.
Yeah.
I wish they would have left this exposition out.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point, because this movie really sits on that cusp of, like, it's a standalone movie, but they're trying to cover what would have been in sequels.
Exactly.
Because, yeah, I mean, there is, like I mentioned, this first half of this movie is almost all exposition, just explaining stuff.
Yes. Beautifully done, but exposition.
Well enough done, I'll say.
The background is nice to look at.
Yeah. Just, it doesn't hold up on multiple rewatches like I've had to do.
No.
But fun little bit I learned from the Battle Angel Alita wiki is that the moves are German.
Okay.
All their moves have a German name, and the practitioners are called Künstler, which translates to artist, and it's the technique, the Panzerkunst means armor art.
Cute.
Yeah. Germans shoving words together and making new ones.
The true skill.
Yeah. And so, we learned that, well, actually, I learned this. Salazar, Alita, trained a lot for these roles, and actually trained with, Keith Cook, Hirabayashi. Some of you might recognize him as the bad guy as Nobu in Beverly Hills Ninja.
Yes, some of you.
As well as Reptile in 1995's Mortal Kombat.
Yes. And
Sub-Zero in 1997's Mortal Kombat, Annihilation.
That one I'm very familiar with.
He also plays Aang in National Security, which I know that's a lesser-known movie, but it's a movie of my childhood. But despite all of her training, Salazar was more so used as, like, a base point for Alita's performances and her facial expressions, while there was actually 9 women who were used to portray all of Alita's stunts. There was women who were specifically better at jumping, some who could jump and twirl 5 times before landing.
I wish. But yeah, I mean, but that's the joy of CGI, is you don't get stuck with, like, the actor who can only do X, Y, and Z as opposed to the entire alphabet.
Yeah, exactly. And so, more exposition in this moment, because we learn Shirin is employed by Vector, who was the guy who was overlooking the city, but currently he's being controlled by someone in Zalem.
And, like, I understand that we're supposed to be like, oh, look, fancy rich bad guy. But I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah, there's just
He feels like if there's a second one, then I will care about this man.
He feels very much like how in Lord of the Rings, they had to deal with the Eye of Sauron being the true bad guy.
But, like, you don't ever fight him.
But he's a giant eye, so they're having to extend people out.
Very much so, but I don't think this one was as successful.
But Vector's not threatening at all. No. Shirin's not threatening at all.
No, it's just their one cyborg guy who's threatening, and so he's the bad guy.
Not even that well done, though.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets beat up, so.
Yeah. A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, from this moment, we cut back to Alita now wants to, be a hunter warrior and goes with Hugo to see Motorball. It's
mostly just hyping you up for professional Motorball.
To a point, because here's some things I like about this scene. One, it's an act of youthful rebellion.
Yeah.
She's been clearly said stay away from this, but she's starting to rift away from the Doctor a little bit, so she's doing her own thing.
Yeah, okay.
One, it's also a dope intro to like the battle senses and stuff. But it's also there to explain that the champion of all the leagues goes to Zalem, and we get a fast flurry of action bits for exposition in there. We get nothing about the game other than it's violent.
It's violent and fast. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is the one part where I feel like if we had done this slightly differently, and I'm not sure how, but if slightly differently, I would care more about the ball game.
Yeah.
Because we get pulled away from watching the ball game to be told about the ball game. And then to be told that the best ball game winners get to go up to special heaven.
Yeah.
Pooping City heaven.
Yeah.
Which, because we've been pulled away from how cool all of that is and the way it is done, does not sound like hey, they're picking the best of the best from down here to go up there.
Yeah.
It sounds more like, we sacrifice the best player to go up to the next level. Yeah. I wish to be next year's sacrifice.
Yeah, it is this weird...
Like, it's not done in the same sort of, like, high energy that, like, people who are really into sports would talk about, like, oh, so-and-so's getting to the Hall of Fame, they're getting an award for this or that, or, like, oh, this person has the record for most three throws in a game. Like, it's not said in that same energy. No. It's said in, like, this, like, and then when they die, they get to go to Poop City heaven. Yeah. But they don't. They just get to go there, so why do we, like...
It's like... in a bizarre and morbid way, makes me think of Make-A-Wish go to Disneyland.
Yes. And so, like, I feel like if it had been sprinkled throughout, like, the best from fill-in fields here... get picked to go and, like, be the best up in Best City, I could have gotten into Sportsball more.
It's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but instead of dumb luck, you actually have to work for it.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
It's what's the term? It's not it's kind of a MacGuffin, but not really at the same time. It's just a goal for the player or for a character to honestly never even get to. Like, there's not... Yeah. It's a setup for potential sequels is what it is.
It's exactly what it is.
And so from here the plot thickens a little bit as Hugo runs off, and Sharon and Victor are definitely plotting something. There is fuckery afoot.
There really is.
Because from here we witness a park jacking of a prize player by Hugo and his gang, which now we've realized that Hugo is a bit sketchier than we were expecting.
Yeah, but also, like,
we saw it coming.
Everyone in this is sketchier than we saw coming, so, like, oh no, he's into a slight gang activity.
Yep, and we learned that Vector's behind the parts jacking, and he torches the athlete himself.
Which I know is there to make him more bad guy-y, but again, I don't care.
No.
I don't care. He's the overseen bad guy who, like, I don't, like, I know I'm never gonna get to punch him, so whatever.
Well... this part does serve a purpose.
It does, but again, if this had been set up from the get-go as, like, by the way, we're currently making 2 and 3, I would care.
Yeah, well, it also leaves, it's supposed to show that Hugo is only there for the parts jacking, he's not doing the killing. Yeah. Which only gets mentioned later on in the movie.
Yes, and honestly, like, because of how dark the original source material was... and how the movie tries to lean into that at some parts. Yeah. I don't care that he's secretly a good guy who didn't actually murder anyone. Honestly, he could have murdered people, and I think that might have been a benefit.
I mean...
it might have been more character building for the dude. I murdered people, but I regret it.
Yeah. Either way, it's a nothing bit, too.
Yeah.
It's just to extend the plot further down the line.
Yeah.
Because right after this, we go to the next day where Alita is taken outside the city where she is told about the fall of the cities and the or the United Republic of Mars.
And for a movie with too much explaining, why people do not live in the jungle is never made clear.
Well, and there's so much stuff that's not explained because we go by the crop fields, which we assume they have farming land outside the city.
Sure.
But with them explaining almost everything else besides Motorball, really, there is this magic reverse waterfall that's protecting the city that's never explained.
Oh, you mean the cloud machine? Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what that's about.
Yeah, just like, oh, that's cool. Instead of just like, okay, we're kind of gloss. It feels like they realize, like, hey, we've explained all this stuff, but we have like 20 other things we got to explain. We got to start cutting it now.
Unfortunately, this very much feels like oh shit, we've done too far. We've gone too far. Because, what we are being protected from, not explained.
Nope.
Why people do not live in the jungle world, not explained. Because let's be real, the main town is shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that bad, but it's not great.
No.
The amount of people there who would happily go live in the jungle and live in rural settings would be a lot.
Well, and it seems like there are a fair amount of people who live outside the city,
but they
or
live,
at least
like,
work outside the city.
I would argue they work outside the city, because the number of people squished into that city does not register the number of people and, like, where the farm is located. There's not farms, like, moving into this jungle.
Yeah.
They are right next to the city, as in, like, hey, can you hop out real quick and turn the water on real fast?
I've just realized it kind of makes me think of, what's the movie? Priest.
Yes.
It's very much that kind of city.
Yes. And, like, if there had been a tiny bit put into, like, we are still fearful of blah, 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 the giant jaguars or some nonsense.
Yeah.
I don't even care what.
Well,
but, like, to make this feel like a rebellion to go into the dangerous jungle.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like, a school trip.
Well, and, yeah, I mean, they really don't... There's
nothing to it.
No, exactly.
I mean, it's cool, and I'm glad that we've thought about this world, but, like, explain it to me.
At least a little bit more detail, like you put in the background of other stuff. Because legitimately, they just go on a little hike out to a crashed ship that no one knows what to do with. Not even the scavengers will go out there because the technology is so advanced that basically we learned that the fall was like the fall of Rome as well, where, like,
we lost some knowledge.
A lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, how do we get to it? And Alita just jumps in and walks across the bottom of the water, which, cool shots, but...
I mean, it looks great, but, like, explain.
Yeah.
Explain yourself, movie.
I wish.
But also not with words. Use your visuals.
Well, I mean, we do get a little bit of this, because before this, Hugo makes the very classy sex joke of, well, how long can she hold her breath? Classy, but also, like, she's just a brain in a mech suit. Theoretically, indefinitely. Yeah. Like, she doesn't have any lungs, guys. I'm sure there is the Battle Angel Alita equivalent of a fleshlight in this world. Oh, I have no doubt in my mind. I'm sure that's a different manga from the same time period. No, I'm sure there is one. It's Corbit's. What? Oh, is it Corbit's? I thought it was Chobits. It might be Chobits. I only read it. I didn't watch any. I only know of it because of the cover, because it was like one of the only ones that was in our... Yes, it was one of the only ones in the library, and you would pick it up and start reading it. You'd be like, I can't bring this home. My mom would be disgusted, and you put it back. I instead went down the Neon Genesis Evangelion, and there was some one I read about. There was like this Samurai Warrior one that... Oh, well, that could have been a lot of them. That doesn't narrow it down at all. It started with an S. I can't remember its name off the top of my head. But yeah, I went down a completely different rabbit hole that I understand. Age. Yeah. I understand. So, on the ship, Alita finds a body upgrade, but the dock won't... she finds a body upgrade. That's all the ship's there for, just to... It's literally, that's it. Yeah, she finds an upgrade. And then the dock won't put her in the body because we learn it's... technology, it's and also like taboo, kind of. It is, and also like they do play a little bit more into like he made the body you're currently in. He knows you're not his daughter, but also like I thought we bonded. Well, and that's exactly what this part is for, because it brings into conflict specifically Alita and the Doc's desires. Yes, where Alita wants to connect to her past, but the Doctor still sees her again as the replacement daughter. I will say, though, I do think this one handles it in a nice, complex way, because at no point does Alita make it like the, you're not my real dad sort of thing. It's clear that, like, while this man is not her father and doesn't love him as such, she does
care for him.
Yeah.
She does have affection towards him. And so, like, she is battling with, like, this is clearly who I am and who I want to be, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't fight him on this very hard. She fights him like a teenager does, but not in, like, I'm putting my foot down.
Well, because she's growing. And that's where they do a really good job with Alita, is they start progressing her growth from very much a child to now she's kind of a teenager.
Yeah.
Because the doctor has 0 constitution, because he immediately breaks down and explains that that body is a berserker body and it responded to her core, and it's her background. She was an elite warrior.
Yeah, which I could have done without.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I know why it's there, but again, it's more exposition than needed.
Oh, exactly, because it doesn't add anything, because immediately Alita rebels and becomes a hunter warrior.
Almost the next day. Literally the same night.
That same night.
She goes into the sketchy bar, Kansas, and is like, I am here to hunt things.
Well, before that, because, like, I like the Citadel look to everything, but they don't really explain what it means to become a hunter warrior. Like, it just feels like it's just an application. At least, like,
yeah, you just fill out some paperwork.
Yeah, the ninjas in Naruto had to go through exams and shit, and some of them died.
And some of them failed.
Yeah, they had to learn, like, the trajectory of Shuriken and Kunai and bullshit.
Yeah, it very much feels like you just fill out some paperwork, get your license, and get a pat on the butt as you leave the door.
Yeah. Anyone can become it.
Which, I mean, like, if that's the world, fine. But, like, it's not explained. No,
not at all. And, like you said, Alita now goes to the bar Kansas, which we learn is a hunter bar. But I do like the design of this bar. It's very underground, brutalist, kind of.
It's very brutalist, but it also really vibes with that, like, old saloon. Mm-hmm. Like, you're here to get beat up and take a shot.
Yeah, because I like we get introduced because Zapan's there, and he's trying to basically hit on Alita.
Oh, like you do, I guess.
But I love the bounty introductions where it feels like a very old Western or Kung Fu movie of, like, this is Tits McGee, fastest fembot at this side of Zalem.
But actually, it really does feel like that, which I like. And it's, like, it's fine. It's just a weird contrast to the Sportsball earlier.
Yeah, it just, they're trying to, it feels like they're trying to cover too much, where it feels like...
I feel like we could have maybe done half of the original plot.
Yeah, it feels like, I understand introducing it early on, but it feels like Motorball could have been in the second movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and it probably would have cut down the movie by like half an hour too.
I wouldn't have complained.
No. Because Zidane then reveals that his sword is the Damascus blade, made with metallurgy that was lost after the fall, which I do couple things. I do love that she's like, well, who'd you have to kill to get it?
Yes, I do too.
Also, in this moment, because we're finally getting like a real good look at him, I dig his metal soul patch.
I'm glad you do.
Yeah.
Good boy, I hate it.
It's so
dumb.
It is, but it's great.
It's so dumb.
He feels like
he feels like a bro dude.
He feels like, oh fuck, what was the metal he feels like new metal.
He does.
I do like the detailing on his back though.
I do too. And like, he makes sense. I think that there are just certain aspects to him that make him feel, and this might be something that changes as the movie ages, but there are certain aspects that right now, because of where we are and looking back at the movie and these characters, he feels just a tiny bit too much like a side character who accidentally ended up with the OP weapon.
Yeah.
And it's 90% the face and soul patch.
Yeah.
It's like, that's really what's driving that factor for me. Which, I mean, again, in 10 years, my opinion might change.
Yeah. And we'll see what happens with the series.
That's true.
Because after this, Alita reveals that her purpose for being there is to hunt Gruishka and bring the hunters together.
And also just kick ass.
Yeah, well...
She's here to pick a fight.
Yeah, this part feels very much... And I don't know if it's part of the manga, but it feels very much so like James Cameron's little bit of like having her bring people together is still kind of there.
This is very James Cameron-y, not gonna lie.
But I do like that it also shows that she's still naive and a bit power drunk.
Yes, and I like this scene for the most part. I don't care that she's trying to bring them together. That, like, goes in one ear and out the other real fast for me, because we immediately cut to a really well-executed fight scene.
Good old-fashioned bar brawl. That, honestly, we haven't covered a movie that has one besides, like, Sonic. Or Sukiyaki Western Django kind of had a couple, but not like...
Not like a full-fledged one.
Bar brawl.
And this one is very nicely shot. The choreography is really well done. You don't get any like moments where you're like, well, why are they all taking their time beating her up? Why has she got so much slow motion time? There is slow motion time, but it feels appropriate for how fast she is.
It feels like a combination, one, of a bar brawl, the chaos of it, but it also feels like the like restaurant brawls you see in old kung fu movies, where like it's always like they get surrounded, but they always come at them at like 1 or 2 at a time at most.
And there's a lot of like table use and chair fight. Like it feels, it's a good feeling fight.
Yep.
It's a satisfying fight.
And my favorite character in this whole fight is just the actual old Western bounty hunter dude just chilled there watching it all happen.
Yes. Does not participate.
Yeah. Because also it gets broken up because Ito shows up. Like, how the hell did he know she was... I'm sure he has connections, but like, it's never explained why he shows up. Why he even shows up with his actual weapon too. Like,
yeah, I don't know.
What's he gonna do? Is he gonna actually start fighting the other hunter warriors and kill them or some shit?
Not explained. He's just there.
Yeah, this is where some of the storytelling really starts to break down, once they finished a lot of the exposition. Because this is really where the exposition ends and the movie starts to try and mature as a movie.
It also starts picking up pace a little bit from here.
Because from this, Gruishka bursts into the city all upgraded, and he's only there for Alita, who gets no help because there's no bounty on him. 2, she started the fight, pretty much.
Yeah, which, I mean, like, fair.
But there is one person who will stand by Alita. It's a little puppy.
Who dies immediately.
That she gave the burrito to.
Yeah. This movie...
Gets absolutely slaughtered.
Yeah, this movie doesn't pass the dog doesn't die check.
Again, if it lays heavily on my theory, if there's too much of a specific focus on the dog is going to die.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
The dog dies. I'm very sorry, everyone.
Yeah. I also forgot that she paints her face with the dog's blood.
But, okay. Yes, but also, like, she only really has 2 iconic looks. One, the beautiful body at the beginning. The second one, mostly just the blood under the eyes. And, like, it's so impactful. I love it. Well,
she actually has, let's see, 1, 2, 4-ish looks.
Yes.
Now, it's passable as like a look, but it's not really.
Okay, the reason why I say it's a look is because it was part of the original art that was like, I think it was on the front of the cover of one of the books.
Yeah, yeah.
And so for a lot of people, they only knew the imagery of mostly her arm and like her hand, the beautiful robot porcelain hand, and then her face with the dog blood under it.
Yeah.
Was for a lot of people their only references to it. And so to see both of those in the movie was really nice.
Well, and it's also a weird moment, too, at this point, because, one, she's transitioning more into a warrior.
Yes.
But it's also got that weird, like, Ghost Rider, where it's like, I do not stand by in the presence of evil. It's
she feels...
She is a naive, borderline edgelord.
Oh, she's such an edgelord. What are you talking about?
Borderline. She's not fully...
Yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't call her a full edgelord.
Yet.
No, not even. She doesn't really reach that precipice, you know?
Yeah, in ways.
Yeah. But from here, she follows Gruishka into the world of the underground, where he is very much like Bane in Batman.
Oh, he's so Bane-y.
He's like, I was molded down here. I was forgotten, and then Sharon found me.
I was born in the darkness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that.
Which we get a dope fight, but
it's good.
It is a very much needed fight because it brings her down a notch, but it also forces the doc to put her into the body she needs.
Yes.
Which, one, I love the twirling shot. That is probably the coolest shot of this movie.
It's beautiful, but it's somehow not nearly as impactful as the original artwork for it was, which this is gonna sound weird, but I like that it wasn't, because that kind of like left me as someone who had read before I watched the movie this like little inkling of satisfaction of being like, oh, okay, you did see the source material at some point, but you chose to go a different way. I appreciate that.
Well, and also with a lot of those action scenes, the reason they have to be less dynamic is because you do have backgrounds, even if they're blurred.
No, literally just this, like, the slow-mo of her body coming apart as she, like, hits the ground. That's, like, a whole spread. And, like, it's, the way it's inked originally is so much, it almost feels gory. Yeah. Without actually being gory, because she's a robot. But, like, this one, she comes apart in such a clean way that it doesn't have that gore sensation. Okay, it doesn't have, like, the guttural response that you would get from reading. This one almost feels, like, artistic as she, like, falls through the air, where you're like, I knew it! You're gonna get the body! Yeah. Whereas in the first one, you're like, oh shit, is she dead? Yeah. And so, like, even though you know that, like, she's a brain, sort of thing. Brain with a tit and an arm, because that's... Yes. Or a porcelain tit, which... One porcelain tit and one fancy arm. Yeah, because even she uses that to take out Grishka. Yes. Which also is, there's a nice little slowdown where it, like, triggers memories again, because, again, the life or death situation. And I like that they've established what triggers the flashbacks. I do too, as opposed to random. Yeah. Yeah, I like it as well. Yeah, because we see her training, and it's like, you know when to give up. You never give up. Always keep fighting. Always even when you're just a left tit and an arm. Yep. Because after this, I love that the Western dude comes down to help, because he only wanted to fight Grishka because he's not a dog lover, and not because he killed the dog. Nothing is said about the death of the living dog. He's not a dog lover. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's his whole reason. Yeah. Good for you, dude. Yeah, and so from here, Ito is carrying out Alita's upper body. Left tit and arm. Yeah, well, core too. A bit of it, yeah. Because the core's what matters. No, it's not. It is. Well, it kind of is. Just the brain. Because they do say her power comes from her mind. It's Panzerkunst. Exactly. Yeah. But, I mean, the core's keeping the brain part alive, so yeah that's good, I guess. After this part, like, there's his bitchy ex-wife outside taunting him, reinforcing that Alita's not their daughter, you can't keep replacing them, which... in this moment is where I realized that the assistant, all it's not explicitly stated, is probably the replacement wife. Probably. Yeah. Probably. I do love how in literally hundreds of years of futuristicness, scrubs still look the same. I mean, they're comfy. Yeah. How do you futuristic basically a t-shirt? I don't know, but there's gotta be ways. We've gotta come up with something. Jumpsuits that auto-clean themselves. I don't know, just make them more form-fitting. Oh, you will need to breathe. Yeah. More pockets? Why would you need pockets in an operating room? Oh, you need pockets. You got trays. No, you need pockets. Trust me, all scrubs need pockets. I will ask my friends and doctors. Okay, they will tell you that pockets are necessary. I don't believe it. Okay. And so, from this, Alita is now in her new body, and we're showing how advanced her body really is. It's adapting to her, form and how she actually mentally sees herself. We get, what I'll call advanced puberty as she's forced into adulthood. Advanced boobage. Yes, because they even mentioned that, well, I guess she's older than you actually thought she was. And it's like, no fucking shit. She's 300 years old. She's earned technology that technically doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, she's literally an old woman. Yeah, and we get some weird moments because, like, we learned that, like, her whole body's built as a weapon. She's able to, like, shoot flames or some shit that's never used. Yeah, I mean... again, it's all bits that, like, if we ever get to a second one, maybe we'll use it. Yeah, but it's very much building up that her body is a shell. One could call her a ghost in the shell. Yeah, no, it has similar vibes. Yeah. My only complaint, and there's really nothing they could do about it, is her new body, while cool as fuck, kinda don't remember what it looks like 9 times out of 10. It's very much sleeker. It's not porcelain. No, and, like... it's not white. It also doesn't have any, like, distinguishing feature to it. Jelly. Yeah, like, give it a color that's not black blue.
Yeah,
like
carbon steel color.
Yeah, it's carbon steel color. Like, she doesn't have, like, a distinguishing feature other than the eyes, which they just took her head and put it on the new one. So, this new body, while cool as fuck, no one's gonna remember this body, other than the fact that it does stuff.
Yeah, which we get a little bit of it more, because, there's a nice little re-bonding moment because she still acts like Daddy's little girl.
Yeah, and, like, no, it's a well-shot scene, the writing's good. I just wish that we could have had some, like, etching detail or something to, like, bring this body into the, like, past future.
But the lack of detail is what makes it look futuristic. Because think about it, she's been in an art piece of a body.
True, but at the same time, like, it doesn't stand out.
It's a manufactured body, and that's what makes it great, because we have an art house body compared to mass-produced.
Sure. I'll go with it for now.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna forget what this body looks like, though.
Yeah. Because Alita from here goes to meet up with Hugo, and she says she's more herself than ever in her new body. There are some nice practical effects, because the hand is a practical, like, gelled palm sensors, because they say it's, like, there's how they designed it, because they do talk about it in the special features, is that although it's metal, there's gel surface for the sensor, so, like, the pads.
She's still a little squishy. Not a lot, just a little bit.
Squishy enough. Probably not in the areas that Hugo wants, but
no,
squishy.
She's hard and firm.
Which I hate. There's a stupid fucking line in this moment where Hugo says, Alita is the most human person he's ever met.
It is dumb, but for people who are not familiar with any of the source material, it does help
They explain the only human part about her is her actual brain.
Yes.
She's a ghost in the shell.
Yes, but also, like, it does help redefine the stylistic choices that were taken throughout the movie.
I guess.
Because otherwise, you could argue that she's a little bit robot-y.
I mean, do we need to explain what a cyborg is?
No, I get that, but, like, because it is harder for, like, the audience to connect with her, like, visual styling.
Okay.
It's nice to have a character in the world, like, articulate, like, hey, I know you're creepy looking as heck, I still think you're good. Like, that's a nice bit.
She has a human soul,
Yeah. Because, like, even by that world standards, she's creepy.
Yeah.
She's, like, real fucking weird looking.
Sorry, that just made me think of that part. I think it was in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Am I weird looking? You're hideous.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's exactly that.
Yeah. But yeah. I get what you're saying there. Yeah, it's just
yes, it's cheesy.
It's her soul.
Yeah, it's cheesy, but, like, I don't hate it.
Mm-hmm.
It's at least not more exposition.
Thank God. Thank God there's, like, no more exposition in this movie. There's a little bit, but not a whole lot more. Because in the lab, Grishnak is confronted by Nova, and now he is feeling the pressure because they learned that Alita is really the last of the Technarchy.
Oh, surprise. No one saw that coming.
Surprising. Because Vector is now bringing in Hugo to rule over Iron City, where Hugo drops a little bit of details on Alita, which...
Dumb move, dude.
Really dumb. Because, and this part goes real quickly, too, because Alita returns to Hugo, visits his place, where he's like, oh, I was up too late, I had some drinks with Vector.
Mm-hmm.
Because we learned that he's decided that, or Vector's told him that if he raises 100,000 credits or whatever money they use, that they'll send them to Zalem.
Uh-huh.
And Alita's like, well, I'll help you earn the money. I'll do a motorball, or no, he wants you to play motorball, or I'll give you my heart.
And she literally rips out her heart and hands it to him.
Yeah.
Touching. I like that this part is trying to, like, reinforce that she's, like, yes, she's matured, but, like, she's still that dumb, innocent, like, over-the-top person she was at the beginning.
Yeah.
Which I don't hate. It's just, it feels like we haven't had enough time for Hugo to also progress. We spent a lot of time on her not as much on him.
Exactly, because I'm gonna bitch about Hugo in a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we learned that Vector wants Alita to try out for Motorball. Good way to continue to show that she is very much normal girl despite Cyborg, but it also begins as they leave. It also shows the Pan plotting. He's not going to take his little smicky smack in the face laying down. And all this is just, it's not exposition, but it's little details to build up.
Yes. Because
at the arena, the Doc is supportive of her in Motorball despite not approving, and always the doting father as...
Yeah, I mean, he's fine.
Yeah.
It's standard character for him.
Yeah. She draws 99 on her arm, a reference to the flashback of her on the moon in the first battle being called 99 to your left, or whatever the fuck they call her.
Yeah, something.
Tell her. Because we learn... we get a cut to Vector assembling the scum of the game to kill Alita.
Which, the scum of the game is just Terminator-style cyborgs.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, they're big hunky dudes coming to kill her.
Yeah, and I mean, she's getting calls while she's on the pitch and whatever, or the track.
Yeah, and like, the calls are weird but necessary, so like, it's whatever. Well, again, Motorball's the weakest part of this whole movie. Well,
and it's, Hugo is, we get the first call because Hugo is late because he's planning to leave the game for good, but Zapan shows up to fuck shit up by killing Tanji and
other person.
Yeah, or the body jacking dude. That's who they kill first because he's like, I'm out, even though he could have just
left.
Yeah,
you don't have to go tell people that you're leaving. You can just not go.
Which, I mean, this is probably the most brutal moment in the movie because he cuts Tanji in half.
Yes.
And I think this is really the first only like full human kill we see in the movie.
I think most of the movie up until now has almost all been robot kill.
Yeah, cyborg kills.
And the dog. Yeah. But we don't even see the dog. It's off screen.
The dog is tastefully
off screen. Yeah, this is, I think, our first actual people kill.
I have a feeling if it was old Rodriguez, the dog would have died on screen.
Oh, the dog would have totally died on screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only reason that I think this movie was toned down as much as it is because they were looking for a certain rating. I really do think that. Because the source material is not exactly like light and happy.
Yeah, and in certain regards, I mean, I get it. I mean, I understand trying to get that PG-13 rating to a point, but at the same time, it kind of compromises a lot of the style. And like, granted, we do get a lot of like robot kill, but we went really soft with the effects for the robot deaths. We could have leaned in a little bit, a little oil leakage, at least some fluids, at least thicker looking like bits to the robot, like parts being taken off. Yeah, they're all very thin, like almost watery feel. Well, and we don't even get like partial human kill because everything is pretty much head down robot. Yeah. But Hugo Hugo is now on the run as the second league tryouts begin. Ito is sitting there and he now realizes that it's not a factory team, but a group of bounties and hunter warriors. Yep. Alita gets a call, but it's a good job of reuse. There's a couple things in this. So I do like the reuse of body types that we saw in the very first match. I do too. But for all the other setup, there's nothing explained because, like, from our understanding of what we've seen of Motorball, besides her playing in the streets, for all we know, they could kill each other in the game. Yeah, they don't though. That's part of the rules. But like, those rules aren't explained during the movie. You have to go outside of the movie to know that. Yeah, exactly. But it is some dope action though. It is cool to watch. Yeah. It's very satisfying. Which we get the first line of face of an angel and a body built for battle. Yeah. Because in the middle of the action, Hugo again calls Alita to explain a situation, and Alita breaks out of the arena into the city, which feels illegal, but okay. Yeah, it's just kind of like one of those weird moments. I mean, it's cool, but it feels like Jet Set Radio a little bit. A little bit. And I mean, It is also good, too, because it also starts to show her adaptive battle style, whereas, like, everyone is kind of a one-trick pony for the most part.
Yeah, and it also, like, really... It does nice to get outside of the, like, sport ring and into the real world, because it's much more clear that she's more fluid of a fighter than all of these, like, special built guys are, where a lot of them are too bulky, a lot of them can't turn as tight as she can, or they're just not as advanced as she is.
Yeah, so bulky, if they had an ass to wipe, they couldn't reach it.
A lot of them couldn't get the sticker stuck on the top of their head.
Yeah.
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 But, and so, like, it's less of, like, oh, she's just faster than them because she's little. It plays into, like, this whole roundedness of, like, no, she's just all around better.
Well, and it's also really the first time we've seen her new body in action, too.
Yeah, and it's a nice display.
Yeah, because before she's only touched Hugo.
Which was boring.
And crawled through his window.
Which was weird and creepy.
Yeah.
And a red flag for a potential girlfriend.
Yeah, it depends.
If your potential girlfriend's crawling through your window unannounced and ripping out her heart to give it to you, you need to find a new home.
I have a feeling they were supposed to meet up, and he's hungover, so he slept in.
Again, though, this is dating red flags. Your new girlfriend should not rip her heart out for you. Literally.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
Yeah. But from here, Alita arrives at the church that Hugo's history is revealed. He's been parts jacking. She completely ignores that.
Yeah, she does not care.
He's wanted, actually, for murder.
Which, this is the only part where she's even remotely concerned. She's like, did you do it? And he's like, I
did the parts, but we never killed anyone, which is exactly what the only purpose of Vector even showing up to torch the one guy is to prove that he hasn't killed anyone.
Yeah, that's literally it.
Yeah, it's just... There's a lot of stuff that they could have worked better. Instead of spending time on exposition, they could have built up the characters better.
Yeah, and this is where Hugo, for the first time, really reaches short.
Yep, because we get a little bit... This is like the last little bit of exposition where we get factory law, and that it's a Hunter Warriors code that if you have a convict, you have to take them, or you can't get in the way of another Hunter Warriors kill. Where Zapan is really testing Alita, where he's like, well, I'll make it easy for you. And he sticks Hugo in the gut, which is, one, a good way of pushing the action instead of them trying to argue it out.
I do like this better.
Because now there's a ticking clock. Hugo is going to die from the gut wound.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And not even like a maybe in the future, like in Princess Bride. Like, he's actively dying.
Yeah. And Alita flees into the church because there's some centurions coming, and Sheeran is there listening in the background for some stupid reason and then joins to help.
Yeah, I don't care about him.
No fucking reason whatsoever. She is a useless character. This is her only purpose.
Oh, yeah. We could have just completely left her out of the movie.
Yeah, because outside, Alita's got his head, but it's attached to her heart.
Yeah, she's attached him to herself, which...
Sheeran has attached her.
Yes.
Alita is not a medic. She has a body built for battle, remember?
That is very true. And
she could cauterize. She's got fire fingers.
That's true. I don't know. They don't really explain the whole, like,
somehow
how much of the brain has to not be dead part.
Yeah. Because Zapan realizes it, but he can't intervene because the Centurions are there, and they're like, oh, you're violating Hunter law, which... we only learned about, like, 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, we could have talked about that before, but okay, whatever.
Because Alita then takes his sword and casually cuts off his face and steals the sword.
I do like that, though.
Yeah.
It feels nice and like a final true brutal moment for her.
Yeah, and it ties back to her in the bar saying, like, oh, I don't want to deal with someone who's only here for a pretty face.
Yeah, like he spends too much money on his looks.
Yeah.
Sort of thing, yeah.
Exactly. Because, they get back, Doc fixes Hugo, and he says a stupid line of, the city even corrupts even good people, because...
Which is cute, but, like, Hugo was stealing people.
Yeah.
So, like,
But he wasn't killing them.
I mean, that's nice.
Nice enough, whatever.
Yeah, good enough, I guess.
Because, turns out that Vector is running... It's also revealed that Vector is running a scam. And the doc says that no one from Zalem goes back. No one goes up to Zalem. You only come down because he knows, because he and Sheeran were from Zalem.
If only we could have known this earlier.
And they were exiled due to the human Alita's disability, which kind of references that there's some type of eugenics going upstairs.
Which, I mean, I'm okay with, like, a brief mention, because we don't get to see the rest of the up there.
Yeah, I mean, if for all we know, it's full of a bunch of inbreds up there.
Probably.
We know what happens to royalty when they've been isolated.
That's true.
Yeah. Habsburg jaws galore.
So much gin.
So from this, we cut back to Victor's, where Sharon excuses our BS. She's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I just want to be there for my daughter.
Lies, bullshit.
I just want to go back to Zalem."
That's probably true.
She's barely been in the fucking movie.
Yeah.
She is so pointless.
She really is. She's boring.
She's useless, because as she walks away, you hear somehow there's a Centurion in the building.
I don't know how he got in there.
For all we know, there's a hallway off of Vector's room.
Probably.
Yeah, most likely. And now Alita goes to confront Vector, who she really uses her blade to kick ass.
Yep. It's very nice.
We're revealed Sharon's fate, that she was disassembled because Nova, that's his stupid name. The dude upstairs, Nova.
Oh yeah.
No one goes up to Zalem's hole.
Yes.
He takes the body parts that he wants.
Exactly.
Stupid bullshit.
Very dumb.
Because Grishka reappears and Alita has another flashback. This flashback she doesn't feel like she's really in danger at this part.
No, but we have it. It's fine.
She's in battle. Flashback. That's fine. Whatever. Yeah. She remembers her assault on Zalem in the protection rings. The last little bit of exposition we need to close out the movie.
But actually.
Because after she defeats Grishka, Alita then speaks with Nova, kills Vector, and sets up the battle against Vector.
Yep.
She's coming for him, but he's like, well, you got people down here to care about that I could kill if I really wanted to.
Whoops. Wouldn't be a shame.
I mean, it also sets her from not just climbing up to try and kill him.
Yeah, which, fine.
Yeah.
All right.
Because after this, the doc calls, and Hugo is climbing up the support tube.
Of course he is.
Which, I mean, the flashback was good as it builds up the suspense for being on the cable. We know they're not supposed to be on the cable.
Yes.
We know the dangers of being on the cable. But when the defense ring engages, it's all Hugo's fault.
It's all Hugo's fault.
But it also is kind of reflective of what Alita could have become, because his trying to get up to Zalem is very much so he's power drunk as well.
Yes, very much so.
But we don't really care. I mean, they don't build up Hugo enough to be that love interest that we are supposed to give a damn about.
He was so close, but he's not quite there.
Yeah, because she doesn't really drop him. She just can't bring him up.
Yeah.
Because he's only a top half.
Yep.
Basically, the power ring was his Grishka.
Yeah.
Barely. The last half of this movie is so rushed.
It is very quick.
Because we get a really long transition forward, which I do kind of like a little bit, because they could have easily just transitioned to like, oh, it's nighttime now. Mm-hmm. But they spend like multiple days transitioning, because
it is nice.
Alita is now ready to face the final race to move into the Champion League.
Woohoo! She's back to playing Sportsball.
She's got her third battle armor.
Yep.
This specifically for Motorball, because the doctor does mention earlier that he doesn't know the technology. No one does, so if it gets damaged, he can't fix it.
Yep.
And finally, she is Alita, Battle Angel, as Nova stares down as she raises her sword and powers it up.
And it's cool. It looks dope. And that's it.
She's finally gone from an insignificant nobody to a threat to basically God of this world.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the movie Battle Angel Alita. I mean, and I understand, like, there's some issues with it, because, for starters, the manga has 9 volumes and numerous spin-offs.
Oh, does it?
Which, for a movie, the franchise is completely up in the air.
Oh, yeah. You don't know if anyone's going to like it.
Yeah. I mean, it actually was critically and financially highly successful.
It did really well financially.
Though most of the complaints I really see are mainly from manga mega nerds.
Yeah, which, I mean, I understand.
Who nitpick the finer points. I mean, I do. We did that too, but we did it more so from a film standpoint than actually like, oh, well, that didn't follow the manga. It didn't do that.
Which, I had read the books.
Yeah.
And I see what those complaints are coming from, but it was, while a very well done series, and, like, I would argue one of the cornerstone pieces, it's not one of the more popular pieces.
No.
So, like, I'm okay with them taking as many liberties as they did.
Yeah, and on top of that, like, a lot of the issues that people were pointing out is like, well, this character was this was the main portion. They were in 3 chapters. They were their companion. And it's like, well, we can't have 50 characters. We have to boil it down. And even then,
honestly, I don't think we boiled it down enough.
No, we really stretched it quite a bit. We got like about Alita obviously is the main one, but we've got about 5 or 6 main characters that never get fleshed out. Really, Alita, Doc, and vaguely Hugo.
Yes.
Sheeran was supposed to be a main one. Vector was supposed to be a main one.
Yeah.
They're never flushed out. Grishka really isn't flushed out. He's a very weak villain.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, we only have so much time and so much dialogue that you can go through.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the reason the rest of the series is up in the air is due to the mega tyrant Disney acquiring 20th Century Fox in 2020. But there is hope. Rodriguez wants to do a sequel, but he has specifically said that he is waiting to see how well Disney likes his directing of the Book of Boba Fett before he reaches out to them for Alita 2.
Which I think is a fair play.
Yeah, which, interesting enough, the rearranging of the manga... There's an interesting thing with the rearranging of the manga title.
Yeah.
Is that if they wanted a sequel, Cameron mentioned this in an interview with the BBC Radio in 2019, that the branding was like, it could be Alita Fallen Angel, Alita X, Y, and Z. Branding is on point.
It's already there.
And that's unfortunately part of the fault of this movie too. And my biggest fault is that, one, it's a decent standalone movie.
It is. It's okay.
But it's too much of a setup movie.
It is. But not so hard hitting that, like, if you didn't know.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, you could get through it, but you probably wouldn't come back to it.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. But once you know that there's talks of more,
yeah,
you see it everywhere. It's
not like Takashi Miike's. Oh yes, another episode that I did not write this down. This was not planned. Takashi Miike's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, or As the God Wills.
Yeah.
Where they're setup movies. They're actually not bad standalone movies, but they're set up to have sequels.
Yeah.
And Alita did exactly that, but a little bit better.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those odd cases where, like, knowing it, wanting another one, knowing the source material, picking it apart, yeah, I've got my gripes, but overall, like, I'm gonna watch it again.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's something to be said with it too. And we've talked about, like, the loss of information when you translate across mediums.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yes, Charlie. One thing I kind of want to bring up at the end here is, like, it's this weird thing that anime and manga has a lot of exposition in it.
It does.
And I've kind of started wondering why it's okay in them but not movies. And I think part of it is the concentration of information, as well as, like, the lack of visuals that anime and manga it has the ability to provide.
Yes.
That movies really can't do unless it's like a CGI movie. But even then...
it's really difficult to do successfully.
Yeah, you can't really draw, like, a diagram with arrows and stuff like you can in manga or anime.
Or even just have a huge chunk of text.
Yeah, well, and on top of that, like, there's this, like... For us to learn anything, we had to go through the DVD supplementaries. But it doesn't add to the viewing experience unless you go through it beforehand.
Yeah.
Like, it's all after the fact stuff. But I think part of it also is, like, a time thing.
Very much so.
I think that's the biggest thing where anime and manga has the 24 episodes to explain everything. They can afford to waste 2 or 3 episodes explaining the world. And
they've got time for each panel to be as dense as possible.
Yeah.
Like, you've got time to study every frame.
Yeah.
Because every frame's important.
And with movies, you really don't get that option.
No, you don't. Even if you rewatch stuff like we do, it's impossible to put enough density in there for the general audience to get it.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, even on top of that, like, they could have been vague with a lot of stuff and gone back and explained it. Or I think my biggest issue is that they spend, too much time explaining and then re-explaining everything 20-30 minutes later on.
Yeah, and it's an awkward thing because clearly one explanation was put in before the other.
Yeah.
But they felt like they needed both.
Yeah.
It's awkward because I see where they're coming from. This is they're worried that you're not going to get what they were originally hoping they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But it also is a lot of baby hand-holding.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, at the core of it, I do like Alita.
Yeah.
I think it's an enjoyable movie, and it's a decent setup movie. In regards to anime and manga adaptation, it's good, but it is quite stretched.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned, the end is very much fast-paced and falls apart because they're trying to wrap up a bunch of plot points that they really have just set up.
Yeah,
But,
unfortunately.
I mean, I think that being said, of the live adaptations, it's still it's better than a lot of the Japanese ones.
It is, and it's I think part of the reason why it is, for the live action community, it is actually that good.
Yeah.
Is because, like we've said before, Alita is one of those pieces where people recognize the art, but the number of people who are like hardcore fans of it, not really, like, not a strong group, not a hard, like, we're not a hard-hitting fandom, we don't have merch, we don't get posters at conventions. You gotta dig for it.
Yeah, and I think this was trying to, like, reboot that a little bit, too, and to an extent it was successful.
It definitely
we got reprints of Alita now.
That's true, and, like, it definitely is there, and if you liked the movie, most people would be like, oh, well, did you know about all this other stuff? There's more.
Yeah.
And it's a good entry movie, which I think for a lot of, like, average anime fans, that's what we really want out of our live action, is we want something that, like, as a whole friend group, we can watch it, and then that one or two people who are like, wow, that was amazing, you can be like, there's more.
Yeah.
There's more we can do and talk about.
Well, and I think part of it, too, is the stylistic way it was shot.
Yes.
Because it very much feels like they took panels from the manga and brought it to real life.
And those are some of the best parts.
Yeah, which I feel for a lot of times is lacking in a lot of American superhero movies.
Yes.
And that's why this stands out, because a lot of, from what I've seen in American superhero movies, is that they're very much conventionally shot.
Yes.
They're very studio styled.
And there's only a handful of superheroes who have a handful of scenes shot from them that you can pinpoint and say, this looks comic book.
Yeah.
And even then, it's so far and few in between that it almost feels like the reverse. Like, oh, the comic is copying the movie. Yeah.
And, I mean, we've bitched and moaned about, like, a lot of the plot points, but I think why Alita stands out so well is its world building.
It is fantastic world building.
Specifically the background, and why I think it's a solid cyberpunk movie.
Oh, for sure. Hands down.
Because it doesn't go full on Tetsuo the Iron Man.
No.
But it doesn't go Blade Runner.
Yes. And I would argue that
or Akira.
It doesn't go full Akira. I would argue, though, that it is in the same ballpark. It's in the same league as Blade Runner. Mm-hmm. There's the same level of detail in the background. There's the same level of thought put into the world. They've just gone in little different directions.
Yeah.
And that's part of why I think, from a movie standpoint, Blade Runner is a better movie than Akira, is because Blade Runner pinpointed in onto just two characters and really spent the time on them. Whereas this one stretched itself a little bit too far.
Yeah, and I also think part of it, too, is Blade Runner very much follows the same treatment of cyborgs and artificial intelligence that we've seen in the very classic animes and mangas.
Yeah, it didn't have to explain anything because you already knew it.
But it's also Kishiro's treatment of science fiction, and there was a couple sentences that he said that really stuck out to me, where he said, I believe science fiction is a tool to express some sort of things. Though that statement, for me, is rather common for the genre. There's what he adds more to it. Only having space and robots does not make science fiction. And for me, that really stuck with, because a lot of the bad sci-fi, I think that's why Alita stands out so well, is because it has the inklings of being great.
Yes.
Whereas, like, all the bad sci-fi is, one, normally it's poorly written.
Yeah.
But also, it just does the same stuff, but in space.
Yes, it's usually just a reprint in space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that we actually pretty much saw that with Avatar.
Yes.
Avatar is not necessarily good science fiction. It's a Western in space.
It's a Western in space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't know. I'm at a weird point with Alita. I want more.
I do want more.
I do hope Rodriguez gets Disney to be like, okay, yeah, we'll do it.
I do too.
But everything Disney's taken over, I've been worried about. Because everyone knows now that Disney owns 20th Century Fox. So in some ways, it feels like it's an extension of Disney. I have a feeling people are going to get, or executives are from Disney specifically, are going to get their hands on stuff and be like, no, we got to tone it down a little bit. Specifically, a lot of the horror and like Alita, where it could have been toned up. Disney, if they take it, they're going to be like, well, it's got to be Disney. PG rating.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll go with a PG-13 because it's technically not the Disney brand, but it's going to be a low PG-13, I feel. Yeah, and it's going to be... I want more. I really want more. My worry is that they will end up... Because to truly give this series justice, we'd need like 2 or 3 more movies, not just one. Yeah. And my worry is that they won't truly get the green light for 2 or 3 more. They'll get the green light for 1 more. Yeah. And so we're going to get another movie where we cram too much into one. Oh, no, that's exactly what's going to happen, because I know specifically like how they've written this one. They've really written themselves into a hole. They really have. Alita's the only character who has potential growth. The only villain we have is Nova. She's killed everyone else. Yeah. Nova has like 1 line in the movie, or not. I don't think he even has a line. Just there. The Doctor has nowhere to go. We have to introduce a bunch of other characters before we can even really do anything. And the source material, like, if we wanted to lean really hard into that, we could. But we didn't do that very hard the first time around, so why would we suddenly change tactic? Yeah. I just... It's odd. I want more Alita, but at the same time, I almost want this level of... Like, I want this to be a growth point for more, but from a different genre. Yeah. Or a different series. Some other live action that they can elevate because of what they've done with Alita. Exactly. But it has that weird balancing act of... Like, say the live action of Bleach, where good, but they left it on where where there's a big cliffhanger on the manga, or there's a continuation, but there's no second movie. Exactly. And I also tie into the same time as, like, if I know the source material, I don't necessarily want to go in and see the exact same thing from that series. That's fair. I understand that it's an adaptation, they have to play with stuff, but it just... I feel part of the reason Alita was so successful as well is because, from my understanding, it kept the essence. Yes, it did. Where a lot of other American adaptations don't. It kept the essence without also feeling overly costumey, which is a hard thing to do because a lot of people's popular and like favorite ones have such over-the-top character designs that it's hard to do them without feeling like you're cosplaying. This is one of the few ones that we do have a character who is over the top designed, but she fits so perfectly in the world, and the way that they shot it, it works. And so this is what I'm hoping is an example of like how to go forward with these over the top characters. Yeah. Maybe not like the really over the top ones, but there's lots of characters and lots of story arcs in the anime and manga world that the characters are a little over the top. If you cosplay them, they're going to look really dumb. Yeah. But if we take it more like this, where it's more the whole world rounded to fit them, I think it would work. Yeah, and I mean, that's the best thing is grounding it. Again, going back to Takashi Miike's movies, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and As the God Wills, I like them because they are grounded. Yes. JoJo's a good example, too, because let's be real, the characters in JoJo look ridiculous. Oh, God. I'm so glad they don't go through all the, like, stupid poses and, like, over-the-top antics that the series has. It makes nods to them, but it doesn't go into the anime territory. And that's why where I think live actions shine.
Yes.
Is when they ground them and they don't try and be an anime.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. And and the same thing with CGI, I've tried watching Ruby. There were some movements where
it's too much.
Well, they tried mimicking anime movements with a very rigid CGI character that doesn't have the fluidity, and it just doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
The arm flapping does not work. The giant facial expressions, they don't work.
No.
And that's okay.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest hurdle still live actions are facing, and they're getting it. They're starting to get it. Same with Detective Pikachu, where it was very grounded still.
Yes, but you still got the idea of what they were trying to get
Exactly.
there. Yes.
And I think there's hope, but I'm holding my breath.
I understand.
Not super excited. So, I guess in the end, Chris, do you recommend watching Battle Angel Alita?
Yes, but not to the anime group.
No.
If you're a Cyberpunk fan, this movie's great. This movie's a lot of fun, especially if you like the dirty, grungy sort of city building worlds. Yeah. This movie's a great find. If you already liked this movie, you need to go read the originals. They're so good. They're so beautifully done. I
plan to, but I specifically did not for this episode, so that way I had a less biased opinion.
Which I think is fair, because that's how most people saw this.
Exactly. And it's the same way I went into it, so...
Yeah.
I mean, I personally... I'm on the fence. I do recommend it to a select group of anime people. I'd recommend it to people who aren't into the genre, but like sci-fi.
Yeah.
But for the anime group, it's always a hit and miss, because they have the anime to reference.
Yes.
Or anime in general to reference. But... I do think they will see merit in watching it, unless they are that nitpicky super nerd that you don't tell about series, because they'll ruin it.
Yes, I completely agree.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, definitely give Alita a watch, I would say, but I'm still optimistic about the future.
I am too, because if nothing else, it put down some really good foundations.
Exactly, and that's the thing we needed, and it was definitely a step up from Ghost in the Shell.
Oh, yeah.
And a major, major step up from Dragon Ball Evolution.
That's what I was hoping you'd say.
Yeah. God, that movie's fucking garbage.
Yes, it is. I love it dearly.
Of course you do.
Of course I do.
We'll do it at some point. But, anywho, this has been The Good, the Bad, and the Weird.
Thanks for listening.
Peace. Happy New Year's.